I'm a little disappointed. I found out tonight that Shake Shack is no longer offering oat milk milkshakes. They, across the board as a company, are no longer having that on their menu. It was one of the few places that could go and rely on a non-dairy milkshake. So I'm pretty upset. I went to Coldstone afterwards. This is all happening tonight before the podcast. I'm texting you and pushing you back because I'm like, I got to go get some ice cream, man. I can't find any. I go to Coldstone where they have almond milk milkshakes, right? And I get there and the lady's like, "Oh, sorry, we're out of almond milk." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm just not going to have any ice cream tonight." So I picked up a cookie at the food court.
This segment of First World Problems brought to you by Dynasty Rewind.
It's tough
Check us
stuff,
out,
man.
dynastyrewind.com, launching soon.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Excited about the website. I already have a couple articles I've written, have a series that I've already started on. So I'm very excited to launch the website. I think a lot of people are going to love what they see on there.
Nate, today we are going to be talking about some more rankings. How's
Yeah,
that
we
sound?
love rankings, love rookie rankings. So we got
So
some more for
much.
you guys here.
It feels so good when we rank. Rankings are not my favorite thing because, and you know what? I'm going to say it's not that I hate it so much. It's just that I feel that there's so many nuances that can go into rankings and they can be fluid, right? Because we see, the in season, the seasonal guys, their rankings change weekly. Now, obviously, we'll be focusing primarily on rookie rankings, but even so, dynasty rankings, I feel, don't change week to week. Maybe once a month they change. Things are just a little bit different in dynasty. Some dynasty rankers might like to do it every week. To each their own. Um, but I feel like in dynasty, it takes a little bit more to move guys around. But Nate, today we're talking about wide receivers and tight end. We got some guys that are actually similar here.
Yeah.
We have the first, it looks like three the same. So we could just kind of piggyback off each other for wide receiver. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's,
I can start with my first one, Mike, which
let's
is
start
also
with
your
our
first
first
one.
one. All right, let's do it.
Our first guy here. It's Ted McMillan. Ted McMillan, wide receiver one for us in this rookie class, going to the Carolina Panthers, becoming Bryce Young's wide receiver one. I'm a big Bryce Young fan. I have been for a while. It was tough there for a moment, I will say, but seeing how Bryce Young performed at the end of last year really got me excited about what 2025 could look like for Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers offense. The only question was, who would he be throwing the ball to? Because Adam Thielen's another year older. Xavier Legette, he's a fun guy. He's fast, he's big, he's strong, but he's not really the wide receiver one of that offense. At least he didn't show that last year. It looks like it could be a pretty decent wide receiver two there. So who's going to be that wide receiver one? And for the longest time, none of the mock drafts had McMillan going to Carolina. I was confused about that. I thought that Carolina was a great place for McMillan to go in like his range with draft capital as well. But people were just getting him a edge rusher or a defensive line or something, and never really showing McMillan. So I was ecstatic when McMillan got picked there. I think he's a stud. The true X wide receiver, can be that wide receiver one for Bryce Young, be the guy who goes up and catches the ball. It doesn't matter if he's open or not, which he actually gets decent separation for how big he is, I would say. So, he can really do it all. I'm excited about having a big guy like that for a small guy like Bryce Young.
It's going to be interesting to see how the target share breaks down. I mean, Adam Thielen's still there.
Yeah, and he gets lots of targets. He has for the last couple of years.
He does. I'm curious to see. So Arlad still has Tommy Tremble listed as the starting tight end. You would think that they would have bumped Jatavian Sanders up by now.
Maybe because he was injured to end the year, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know why we're talking about that. Yeah, but I agree with everything you say. I think the targets are going to be there for Ted McMillan, and he absolutely adds a different dimension to it. It looks like it's funny for how small Bryce Young is. They want a lot of size on the perimeters there, and then you got JT Sanders at the tight end positions. There's a lot of size out there. Tight end, however they line him up, and then these guys on the boundary. It's going to be interesting to see how the target share breaks down. But
Yeah.
Nate, the number 2 wide receiver, and some could argue that he's the wide receiver one.
Yeah, very easily.
And I'd be fine however you want to quantify it. But we both have Travis Hunter from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think a lot of people didn't like this landing spot because of Brian Thomas Jr. People were down on Brian Thomas Jr. a little bit after this draft pick. Look, Travis Hunter is fantastic. Speed, hands, ball tracking, body control, just the ability to manipulate his body after the catch and evade tacklers. It's all there. If he just wanted to be a full-time wide receiver, he's going to be a generational wide receiver prospect. If he wanted to be just a cornerback, he'd be a borderline generational defensive back. I mean, I like him better as a wide receiver than a cornerback personally, but this doesn't devalue Brian Thomas Jr. This doesn't
No.
devalue Travis Hunter. I think, hungry boats drink more water, or whatever that saying is that idiot got wrong on the podcast the one time. I think it's a good spot. Trevor Lawrence needs more weapons. More weapons, more explosive offense typically means more points. More points typically equals more fantasy points. Pretty easy. Travis Hunter, number 2. Any thoughts to add to that, Nate?
Yeah, so my brother actually texted me the other night, and he was asking, hey, do you think that Travis Hunter will outscore Brian Thomas this year? And number one, Travis Hunter's a rookie, and Brian Thomas is going into a second year, so a little bit of edge there. But hey, I do like Travis Hunter quite a bit, and like you said, I think he's like a generational kind of wide receiver talent if he was doing that full time. So I thought about it, and I got back to my brother. I texted him back, and I said, as good as Travis Hunter is, because he's going to be playing both sides of the ball, I think that does limit his ceiling on fantasy football, just because there's going to be some places not out there because he played defense, for 25 snaps the drive before. So
Right.
not that it's going to be a huge impact to him. Like they've talked about, he's going to be out there a lot. But maybe if he sees 10, 15 less snaps a game than he would if he was full-time, that might be a couple points a game. And I think he has plenty of ceiling where he can match Brian Thomas Jr., but I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a stud too after what we saw last year. I mean, top 5 finish as a rookie. That's about as good as you can get. So I think Travis Hunter can score as many points as Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know if he can score more. We'll see how the targets break out. We kind of compare this to Chase and Higgins. Not that they're stylistically the same or anything like that, but as far as, hey, this offense is going to be funneled between 2 wide receivers. I mean, at tight end, they got rid of Evan Ingram. They got Brenton Strange out there that, a bunch of people on Twitter are really excited about for some reason. And Mike's excited about it too.
Well,
I told everyone to pick up Brenton Strange like week 7 last year. So, I mean, I should be excited too, but I'm being realistic here. I don't think Brenton Strange is a tight end.
For me, the excitement is just because I think he can outperform the value that you're getting for him, or that you're paying for him right now.
Quite possible. But we know that most of this production is going to be through Brian Thomas Jr. and through Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter, even with Brian Thomas Jr. there and Brian Thomas Jr. with Travis Hunter there, both of them, I think, have top 12 upside. I think more realistic is both of them are in the top 24, and maybe one of them is a little bit closer to the top 12 than the other. Maybe Brian Thomas is wide receiver 10, Travis Hunter is wide receiver 16 or something like that, which means Trevor Lawrence probably had like a wide receiver quarterback 6 kind of season. Wheels up for Trevor Lawrence. He's the real winner here.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I love Travis Hunter as my wide receiver 2 in this class. I wouldn't argue with anyone who has him as wide receiver 1. I just think the volume for McMillan with the Panthers is going to be a bit more because he's going to have a better target share. And I think probably a similar finish, though. I think McMillan's probably looking around that, top 24 wide receiver his rookie year as well. So,
yeah, I'm excited about both of these guys. Excited to see how it shakes down.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our number 3 and the last one we agree on. Nate, what do we have?
Yeah, we have Matthew Golden here, who went to the Green Bay Packers. And I think there's a tier of the top 2 guys, and then it gets into this next tier, which I could really rank any of the next 3 guys in a multitude of different ways. I decided to go with Matthew Golden here because he's got Jordan Love throwing him the ball, and he was drafted in the first round. So he's got a couple things going for him that maybe some of these other guys don't have going for him at the moment. I don't know if he's the wide receiver 1 over Jaden Reed. I don't know if they're kind of 1A, 1B and how they're looked at target share wise. I do know that he's going to see more snaps than Jordan Reed, though, because Jordan Reed exclusively played the slot last year. So he sat around 70% snap share.
Jaden Reed.
What did I say? Jordan Reed?
Yeah.
Incredible tight end for the Washington Redskins back in the day.
Jaden Reed, Jordan Love, Jordan Reed.
Yeah, there you go. There's a Jordan Love, a Jaden Reed, and a Jordan Reed. So it all works. But Jaden Reed, who I do love, 70% snap share, and he'll probably stick around that. He's going to be a slot-only kind of guy. But Matthew Golden will be probably 90% plus snap share as one of the top wide receivers out there. I'm assuming across from Romeo Doubs is what that's going to work out like. So I think the upside there is pretty good. but I think there's also some risk because of how many targets there's going to be in that wide receiver room, which means, I could put Golden at wide receiver 5, and, I wouldn't have much problem with that. Like I said, I think there's a top 2 in this tier, and then there's 3 more, Golden and the next 2 guys we're going to talk about. And I could really rank them either way, but I think just on immediate production, I think I'm going to give the edge to Matthew Golden. But long term, I might actually like one of these other guys better. But hey, you know how it goes. Short term production really helps your value out. So maybe I'll get Golden, see what that production looks like, and flip them for one of these other guys.
That's true. It's one of those things too where we really don't know how this Green Bay Packers wide receiver room is going to shake down until we see it actually get on the field. One thing I will say about Jordan Love, frustratingly for a lot of people, is he spreads the ball around. Spreads the ball around really good, which I actually like, just as a football fan in general. So, Matthew Golden, I like that he's going to be playing outside. He's got the speed. I mean, he's got speed for days. It's going to be really interesting just to see how that all, like I said, shakes down up there in Green Bay. And I believe he was their first round wide receiver drafted since like 2002.
Yeah, I think 2002.
So pretty cool that they did that while the draft was in Green Bay. He got to come out. Green Bay Packers fans seemed pretty hype about it. So, Nate, who is your wide receiver number 4?
All right, my wide receiver 4, who I'd have no problem moving to wide receiver 3, but I'm gonna have him here at the moment, is Emeka Egbuka, or Emeka. I can't remember. I guess I'm confused. But Egbuka. Egbuka, my guy. Okay. I was so happy to see him picked up in the first round by the Buccaneers. I think it's an incredible landing spot long term. In the immediate future, he's probably stuck behind Chris Godwin as well as Mike Evans. He's going to be the guy that's getting the 60, 70% snap share while those guys dominate targets. But we have Baker Mayfield, who has been putting up incredible stats from the passing game for the last 2 years, and I don't see why that's going to end anytime soon. So I think there's plenty to go around where we can have Egbuka. We can see him with 600 yards this year. A couple touchdowns, 60, 70, who knows how many receptions, but somewhere around there. And he's going to, probably be around wide receiver 40 or something like that. And, people are going to be like, oh, well, that wasn't that great of a season compared to McMillan and Hunter, who went over for 1,000 yards, and Golden 900 yards or something like that. But, Mike Evans is on the last year of his deal. Chris Godwin has 2 years left. Both these guys are, Mike Evans is on the other side of 30. Chris Godwin's just about there. So I think Egbuka really has a great long-term outlook. And that's what I was alluding to when, hey, maybe I'd take Matthew Golden right now, eat up his rookie year and then flip him for Egbuka plus if I could. I like Golden's potential, but also I think Egbuka's potential is just the same up there. I think he's such a good pro. He's so ready. He's so technically sound. I'd say he's safer. He's safer than Golden. I think, I have a wide receiver 4. This was a struggle, though. If it isn't obvious coming across. But like I said, I could take any of these guys. I do like Egbuka a lot. I think he might be the best value out of these top 5.
Well, we have our 4 and 5 flip-flop. Did you want to touch? I mean, you talked about Burden there, so you kind of alluded to who your number 5 was.
Yeah. My number 5 is Luther Burden for the Bears. And I was a big fan of Luther Burden before the draft. He goes to the Bears where he's got a lot of target competition. Look, they got DJ Moore there, who's still below 30, and an incredible wide receiver who is still somehow underrated, even though he's been a stud since he came into the league. We have Roma Dunze there, who was one of my favorite wide receivers last year at a first rounder. And now we have Luther Burden, who's an early second-round pick, another stud kind of wide receiver who, with Ben Johnson as the coach, is going to be used in a multitude of ways, I'm sure. But we also have Colston Loveland, who was picked up there in the first round, just to add to the target competition when they already have a very serviceable, if not better than serviceable, tight end in Cole Kmet. Plus, you have DeAndre Swift, who has always been a threat in the receiving game. So there's just a lot to go around with an offense that really struggled last year, didn't really hit all the marks that we were hoping for. Caleb Williams, I'm a huge believer in, but hey, the Bears haven't had a 4,000-yard passer in their entire history. And, Caleb Williams, I'm going to...
Really? They haven't?
No, they've never had a 4,000-yard passer.
Well, the Eagles have only had
franchise
one.
Not to, so...
Yeah, Eagles have only had one. Can you guess who it was?
Was it Nick Foles?
Nope. It's actually Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that for the longest time, the Ravens, it was only Joe Flacco. He was thrown for 4,000 yards. And I think Vinny Testaverde maybe, actually, or something like that. Crap. Maybe it was Elvis. Elvis, too. He threw for some yards while he was there. But Lamar Jackson had over 4,000 yards this past year, so he gets his name in the lights there for the Ravens. But anyway, back to the Bears. Caleb Williams, I've no doubt he'll get to that 4,000 yard mark. If it's not this year, it'll be next year. So there'll be plenty to go around at some point. But I think for the time being, Luther Burden is going to sit here at wide receiver 5 for me. I kind of need to see how it plays out. But I'm still happy to pick him up when I can in the second round.
Before I get to my 4 and 5, 3 Ravens quarterbacks have surpassed the 4,000 yard passing mark in a season. Vinny Testaverde in 96, Joe Flacco in 16, and Lamar Jackson in 2024. And in 2024, Jackson also became the first quarterback to reach 4,000 passing yards and 800 rushing yards in the same season. Still not the MVP somehow.
It's ridiculous. Don't get me started, Mike, on that charity MVP that we gave Josh Allen. That everybody gave to Lamar Jackson except for even the AP gave it to Lamar. It was whoever I don't know. I guess the AP gave it to Allen, but everyone else gave it to Lamar.
Know your co-host, ladies and gentlemen, so you know how to get them fired up. So my 4 and 5, 4 I got Luther Burden, 5 I got Egbuka. And listen, I love both of these guys. And if you had them switched in any capacity like Nate does, I have no problem with it. I think they both have a lot of competition for targets. However, the one reason that I have Burden slightly above Egbuka is Egbuka's targets, or the people that he's fighting with for targets, are more established overall in the NFL and on that team than Egbuka's are. Roma Dunze, second-year player, okay? Colston Loveland, rookie. Cole Kmet, he's, now the tight end too, according to some places. You got DJ Moore there. I understand that. DeAndre Swift, but still, a lot of these guys younger. And then in Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, been around forever. Chris Godwin, been around for a while. Cade Otton, fantastic receiving tight end. I just feel like it might be easier with a new coach, new offensive coordinator coming in to get Egbuka involved early. That being said, I still think these guys have phenomenal long-term ceilings, and I'm happy to get either of them. If I'm drafting somewhere and I really want one of these guys, but I end up with the other, I'm still happy either way. Yep. I'm thrilled. I love Egbuka. It looks like he's going to be manning the slot, which I think will be good for him. Ben Johnson could put him in creative situations. I think let him run the ball a little bit more too.
In the slot.
That's what I meant. Hey, Egbuka could play in the slot too, just not in Chicago. Sorry, I'm getting confused. But get Egbuka in the slot. Let him run the ball too. He ran the ball only a few times at Missouri, which with the way that offense ran, they should have let him run the ball a little bit more because he's good as a runner, both after the catch and just as a pure runner. So that's just why I have Luther Burden just slightly, I didn't understand it's one number, but for me, it was tough to figure out where I wanted to really put these guys. Yeah. I do have an honorable mention too. Just couldn't quite put him on the list. That's Jack Bech from the Raiders. You want to talk about a guy, you never know. With the amount of targets he's going to get out there, he could finish as the wide receiver 2 or 3 in this class his rookie year. I think he's going to get a ton of targets. I know Jacoby Myers is still there.
Myers, man. Jacoby, my boy. Also, they're not going to pass as much as they did last year because they got Pete Carroll now. And they got Genty, so they're going to run the ball.
They're going to be down a lot, though, I think.
We'll see.
With their bridge quarterback.
I don't disagree, but I got some Geno in my teams.
I think he's going to be fine. I just don't think he's going to win a lot of football games. That's a tough division. You got Bo Nix now.
It's a tough division.
Denver, you have the Chiefs, short of the three-peat. Got the Chargers, looking for that first-round playoff bye again. So it's going to be interesting out there in the AFC West. Okay, let's talk about the greatest position in fantasy football, the tight end position. I know we're all over the place here, you and me. I don't think
we're not that similar. We just had the 5 the same.
Do you want to do 1 and 1, or you want to just go through your 1?
Let's just we have this kind of in tiers. Let's just do our 1 and 2.
Okay. And
then we'll do our 3 and 4, and we'll talk about we have the same 5.
Oh, look at that. All right. Do your 1 and 2 for me.
All right. Is it Loveland? Is it Warren? For me, I got Colston Loveland at number 1. I got Tyler Warren at number 2. Just a reminder, Mike, The NFL, at least the Bears, also had Colston Loveland at number 1, and then Tyler Warren at number 2. So, I'm not saying I'm validated, but I feel slightly validated. All right. And he's an incredible pass catcher. He's going to go out there. He's going to do exactly what you want. He's not sloppy at all with it. He's very kind of picture perfect. Another guy who's pro-ready technique. And I think he's going to be great in that offense. There is going to be a lot of target competition, but I trust Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson more than whoever's throwing the ball in Indianapolis, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Daniel Jones, or whoever else they just picked up. Riley Leonard, right? Yeah. So, tight ends, they say, is like a quarterback's best friend, especially bad quarterbacks. But I think that I just would rather have Colston Loveland at the moment until I can kind of see what's going on with the Colts. And it's not like they don't have target competition over there either. I feel like I have not seen people really talk about the competition that Tyler Warren's facing. It's a lot of other people that, we're talking about target competition with. But, Michael Pittman Jr. is still there, who I feel like everyone has just forgotten about, who was a stud for his first couple of years. Josh Downs is there, who is certainly a target eater. And then you got Alec Pierce. You got Adonai Mitchell, who, maybe he's the best wide receiver for the league. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll find out this year. So there's a lot of target competition over there. Plus, you got Jonathan Taylor, who's going to, take a lot of touches and was a pretty good pass catcher himself. So, I like Tyler Warren. I think he is I guess he might be a little sloppy for the NFL. It doesn't matter once you get the ball in his hands, but maybe as far as getting open and, not being the focal point of the offense, I kind of trust Loveland to kind of fit in and make a more of an immediate impact, unless the Colts decide to just make Tyler Warren their offense, which maybe they will.
I think the biggest, and so my 1 and 2 is Warren and Loveland, by the way, the correct way. But I think when we're talking about target opportunities, the biggest difference, and I think this is where people's minds are at. I can't read minds. Trust me, I'm married. I cannot read minds. When they're talking about target opportunities, when you look at the tight ends that Colston, or the other tight end that Colston Loveland has in Cole Kmet, who's shown that he's an extremely capable tight end in his own right, Indianapolis does not have that. There is nobody on that roster that is as good right now, NFL experience or not, at the tight end position as Tyler Warren.
Got Mo Alley Cox? Come on, man. That guy's a stud.
I'll get a step stool and say it to his face. We got Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods. Remember him? That was a chef guy. He loved Jelani Woods.
Virginia Tech.
Sean McKeon. My man, Will Mallory. Former standout.
Miami Hurricane.
Albert Okwebunam.
Missouri.
I know how to say that now because he was an Eagle for a while. And then UDFA from this year, Maximilian Mang.
I don't know where that guy came from.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never heard of that guy in my life. Just saying.
Yeah, sure. The CFL, for all I freaking know. So
also, I said Virginia Tech for Jelani Woods. I had to correct myself. Virginia, just Virginia.
Ooh,
not Virginia Tech.
And you're south of the Mason-Dixon line. You should know better than that, buddy.
I should know better.
Yeah. So I think that's the whole thing. But I love Tyler Warren. He's got that dog in him, as some people like to say. I love what he does with the ball in his hands. He's extremely versatile. And look, I love Loveland too. It's one of those things, again, where if I want one guy but I get the other, I'm not disappointed about it at all. It's Warren for me over Loveland, but it's not by much. It's very, very close. Nate, what's your number 3?
Yep, my number 3. And then my number 4. I got number 3. I got Mason Taylor going to the Jets, former LSU standout. Was a starter since his freshman year, son of Jason Taylor. So he's got the bloodlines. This guy's a stud. And then number 4, I got Terrence Ferguson going to the Rams out of Oregon. Very athletic tight end, can definitely make some things happen after the catch. So reason I have Mason Taylor over Ferguson, number 1, I think Mason Taylor's just a more ready-to-go tight end. He's got more size than Ferguson. He is very athletic himself, but he's bigger, stronger, a more nuanced blocker at this point in his career, and someone I think that's going to be in that offense possibly a top 2 target outside of Garrett Wilson, who they throw the ball to. I'm not sure. So Mason Taylor has the opportunity to be a top 2 target in that offense. We always love
Oh,
chasing. We always love chasing targets, tight ends who have targets somewhere in
who
that
they're
top
throwing the
two.
ball to.
But who are they
Josh
throwing the balls?
Reynolds.
Josh, you're right, Mike. Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard still looking for a trade, right?
Sure.
Sure
Malachi
is.
Corley, forget about him.
Yeah, big threat to Mason Taylor when he steps on him, trips over him on the field. So I think Mason Taylor could see a lot of opportunity very quickly with the Jets, and I think Justin Fields had a pretty good production for Cole Kmet while they were in Chicago together. So I think there's opportunities there for Mason Taylor in that offense in that situation. Terrence Ferguson, meanwhile, I like him a lot as well, but I think with the Rams, there's other people there that are going to throw the ball to. Puka. Cooper Kupp's gone now, so Ferguson has a chance to be up there pretty high in the target share count. But we haven't really seen a tight end in the Sean McVay offense like really thrive from a fantasy football perspective. Tyler Higbee had some good years and some good weeks, but overall was not like a consistent top option on the team. Now that was when Cooper Kupp was there, so he's not there anymore. Things have changed, but I just don't foresee Ferguson stepping into a high volume role very quickly like I do Mason Taylor. So Mason Taylor a 3 for me, and then Terrence Ferguson a 4.
So I actually have the same two people in a different order, of course. And here's why. So I have Terrence Ferguson third, Mason Taylor fourth. And I like Mason Taylor. I love Mason Taylor. I also really love Terrence Ferguson. I think Terrence Ferguson, which is why I have him at 3, explaining it now. Calm down, Nate. I think he has a chance to get on the field very soon. I know we haven't seen the breakout that we wanted from Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee has battled some injuries here and there. He did have a season. I know it was in 2019. He had 734 receiving yards, 69 catches, 3 touchdowns. A couple of the seasons he had 5 touchdowns. Touchdown has decreased here and there. I do think that a guy like Terrence Ferguson is a little more athletically gifted than a guy like Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee just looks kind of stiff to me at times. He's also getting older now. He's 32,
Yeah.
so he's
also coming off injury, I believe. So
yeah, so 32, he's pretty much dead, like me. And Mason Taylor, again, this was another one really close for me. I like Mason Taylor a lot. I just, for me, trust the Sean McVay offense with a good player in it more than I trust the New York Jets until they prove to me that regardless of a new regime in there and who's their head coach now.
Aaron Glenn from the Lions, who we
Right, Aaron
saw
Glenn, defensive coordinator.
He's a defensive coordinator, but he knows the value of the tight end in the offense. So,
and
who's the offensive coordinator there, Mike?
Tanner Engstrand.
See, I definitely read up about that guy 3 months ago, but I can't remember a single thing about him.
Let's see, what's his most recent?
I definitely talked about him on the podcast, and he came from some small colleges and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
He was the offensive coordinator and running backs coach for the DC Defenders in 2020.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's coming back to me now. He also, I think he might have coached under Jim Harbaugh at San Diego University,
Michigan. In 2018, he was our offensive analyst, and then it looks like he was out of coaching in 2020, he was with the Defenders. Then also in 2020, so that's when he got back into the NFL here, or got into the NFL period. Offensive assistant for the Lions in 21, offensive quality control coach, 22, tight ends coach and passing game coordinator, 23 to 24, passing game coordinator, and then this is his first step as a offensive coordinator overall. And
but if you go back to 2011, he was the offense coordinator at San Diego under Jim Harbaugh.
He was. He attended Grossmont College and then transferred to San Diego State.
And then he ended up going to San Diego University. Wow. I feel like there's probably a rivalry between those two.
Probably. Let's see if I could find any of his stats. And let's see. In his career at San Diego State, 2 games played, he was 1 out of 3 for -1 yard. And rushing wise, 2 carries for -16 yards.
Wow.
Cool.
He doesn't have any positive yardage in his football career. It sucks.
Well, so I have more yardage in my career at 0. But yeah, so look, I still think Mason Taylor is going to be great. It's just there's a lot of question marks there for me, which is why I put Terrence Ferguson ahead of him slightly. Nate, let's close it out on our number 5, and then I have an honorable mention.
All right. Well, we both love this guy in the pre-draft process. He did end up going day 3, but I think we both think it's a pretty good landing spot. Gunnar Helm from Texas going to Tennessee early on in the 4th round. Tennessee, they don't have much there at the tight end position. They have Chig. Chig ended up back there. So not like there's nobody there, but we do like Gunnar Helm quite a bit. I think Chig's on the last year of his deal, and Cam Ward's coming in. I think Gunnar Helm, has the opportunity. Number one, he can be out there immediately as a tight end too with his blocking ability behind Chig. And then Chig, we know, isn't really a prototypical, your stereotypical tight end 1 inline kind of guy. So there's going to be opportunities for Gunnar to be out there, even when Chig's out there as well. And, you can show a couple flashes this year and then maybe, step into the tight end role next year. And I think, maybe he's not going to have the upside of a Mason Taylor, Tyler Ward, or Colston, Loveland, Terrence, Ferguson. But I think, Gunnar Helm's upside is like a Jake Ferguson, which I'd be plenty happy with that. I think his ADP right now is like in the 4th round. So,
have you looked at the depth chart for the Tennessee Titans and their wide
I was
receiver?
about to pull it up. I know there's Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson.
My boy Treylon Burks is still there, but hey, who Cam Ward said was a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. So I'm expecting big things.
Well, he is top 5 on their team. So we got Calvin Ridley, Van Jefferson, Tyler Lockett, Alec Amander, Treylon Burks, and then see people that you might have heard of. James Prochet.
Oh, I love me some James Prochet. He was
Xavier Restrepo. He's got a long way to go to make the roster, though. So yeah, I think Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm is just he reminds me a lot of Mason Taylor. Just pro ready, physical after the catch. Not anything super flashy, but extremely effective, extremely efficient with pretty much everything he does. So he's currently 3rd on the depth chart after Chig and Josh Wiley still there. I expect that to change pretty quickly into the season. However, in my honorable mention, Nate, you said that the Seattle Seahawks are pretty high on Elijah Arroyo. He might be manning a lot of the X receiver positions. It's going to have to do a lot of stuff with DK Metcalf gone. I think I'm not going to overdraft him. What?
When is it ever a good thing when they're like, yeah, this tight end, he's kind of like a wide receiver. Like, oh, okay, so it's not a tight end,
it's
right?
Opportunity,
like,
Nate.
What? Come on, man. We've done this song and dance so many times with other players.
It's
he's not good enough to get open as a tight end. You think he's going to be good enough to get open as a wide receiver?
They got Noah Fant, though.
Yeah. So why'd they pick up this guy? Why is everyone so excited about this guy who just runs straight fast but isn't actually agile? Or I don't know, man. It gets me going.
If you get him late enough in the draft, he has a breakout game. You sell him for something you really like. He's going to have an opportunity.
I'll let other people draft him. I'll take it. I actually am I'm pulling up one of my drafts that I'm in right now. And I, unfortunately, was the 111. I lost in the finals. At the 111, it's called Deadeye Dynasty. It's commissioned by our good friend Brandon over at Deep Dive.
Gotcha.
Not Lejeune, but the other Brandon at the other Deep Dive. It's kind of confusing. They're both Brandon and they're both Deep Dive.
Brandon Lejeune's podcast is now the NFL Big Board podcast.
They changed the name of that, so I guess it makes sense now. But the 111, I picked up Caleb Johnson. Okay. I'm still sitting around. I need some running back help. But Mike, at the 211, I picked up Mason Taylor.
Not bad.
I was ecstatic with that because I also picked up Jaden Higgins at the 2-7. I unfortunately do not have a 3rd round pick, and I do not have a 4th round pick either. So I've just been watching from afar. But Elijah Arroyo went off at the 301 before Terrence Ferguson, which I thought was a shame.
Interesting. Well, that's all we got for you guys and gals and whoever else is listening out there. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget about our live stream. That is Sunday, May 18th. That is at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can always re-access the live stream on our YouTube channel. I'm also going to post that on our RSS feed. I'll have the link to the GoFundMe in there as well. If you want to contribute at any time, it'll be available for you. So until then, everybody, You'll get to see us live. For Nate, I'm Mike. Thank you for listening.